That's a tough call to take, but that is a call that has to be taken across organizations. So the fundamentals of marketing, the fundamental principles, I'm reiterating and making this pitch to the converted, but it bears repetition because it is important. First, purpose. Any marketing activity that you do, any brand that you deal with, any instance that you deal with, any campaign that you deal with, must begin with a purpose in mind. It doesn't begin with a metrics in mind, it begins with a purpose in mind. The unfortunate part today is that people put up these fancy slides with a whole lot of matrices and you don't understand what the objective is. And some dodos like me have to ask a simple question, but what is the objective? So someone will condescendingly look at you and say, sir, you haven't understood, but our objective is 6 matrices. These are the KPIs. I don't know the goddamn KPIs. What is behind it? What do you want to? Why do you want to do it? What are you? Which dial are you going to move? So having this sense of purpose begins with the organization that you represent. We have, as a company, had 150 years of heritage. It begins with purpose and values of the organization. And how does any marketing activity that you do be in consonance with this? If there is no consonance, but if there is dissonance all the way through, but it meets particular KPIs that you have brought about, it unfortunately does not result in the objective that you have set for yourself, which could be a revenue growth, a share growth, a blip in sales, a seasonal target, or whatever you might be talking about. The second, it's about people. Irrespective of the technology that you use, irrespective of the matrices that you use, irrespective of having data champions and machine mining and human mining and God knows which other mining that you are talking about, the fact of the matter is that it is still very much a people business. We are still talking to human beings with a head, 2 hands, 2 legs, hopefully a working head, eyes and ears that also are sensitive enough to hear. They also have hearts, they also have hopefully other things that make them to be humans. So let's not forget that the consumer at the end of it all is the person that we serve in whatever context that we talk about. Again, I take the example of Maggi, for example. When we went through this crisis, and again it tells you the power of digital and social media. It took less than 10 days for the brand that had served the consumer for 32 years to be brought down. Trust levels went down from 98% to 3%. 3%. That's what disinformation and that's what vicious attack can do to a brand. How do you protect your brand? And I think that is more than matrices. The protection of the brand, therefore, was to go back to the roots of the brand and to understand what is it that made the brand what it is. And one of the key factors and features that came about was that irrespective of whatever scandal you were going through, the fact of the matter is the consumer loved you the way you are. The consumer loved you because you stood for something. You stood for a 2-minute, you stood for a factor that was still an important dimension of their lives. And what we did, again, contra marketing, put out a campaign when the brand wasn't even on the shelf, came out of the interface on digital and social media. We miss you too, because the consumers kept telling us that we miss Maggi. Maggi has been a part of our lives. And I think it's important for us to understand just what ramifications a brand has on the life cycle of people. We are today talking about populating our marketing departments with data analysts and specialists in digital. I have a simple plea here, and I think over a period of time we will see this playing out. The importance of anthropologists is going to become more and more in our marketing departments. Understanding in this hyperactive, stressed, completely confused age, where the next destination of the consumer is going to be, is more important than figuring out matrices for a campaign for the next 3 months. Unfortunately, none of us go and recruit anthropologists. We don't. But that is one of the challenges that we have, in those organizations which are doing it in whatever manner will probably meet a lot more success. Because the journey, the linkages, the path, I think Rajan's presentation talked about it. The different linkages and touch points of the consumer is changing rapidly. We still haven't understood that well enough. We have agglomerated all of those into KPIs, into matrices, into different sort of insights, as we call them. But that insight is not worth the paper that it is written on. Because you move on to the next day and you find a new dimension that's coming in. Understanding of those networks in the consumer's minds and in the minds of society is going to be the skill that is going